Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mission Employable podcast. My name is Ben Oldak. With me as always, well, mostly always, Kathy Leggett.
Yes.
No vacation for her this time. She is back 2 weeks in a row.
Yes.
It's wonderful to see, wonderful to have her in as always. We are continuing with our National Disability Employment Awareness Month series. This week we have Ashlee Cummings, Disability Workforce Manager.
Yes.
Here at Iowa Workforce Development, and we are happy to have you. New face on the podcast.
That's
How's it
right.
going?
Yes, thanks you guys for having me.
Welcome.
Not nervous at all or anything?
No, not nervous at all.
Perfect. Love to hear that. So Ashlee works fairly closely as part of the business engagement division, and kind of specializes in that business engagement while it relates to folks with disabilities.
Yep, that's correct.
So why don't you kind of, God, you can tell us a little bit more than
Yeah.
than I can.
Yes.
So why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit about your role here?
Yeah, so this is a new role. We are, like you said, under the Iowa Workforce Development Business Engagement Bureau, specifically that disability services. Our role, so I guess I should say there are two of us.
Yep.
I am the southern portion of Iowa, and then my colleague Amy does the northern half. What we are doing is we are working with businesses really to help them diversify their workforce, right? So we are providing what we call support services. There's a long list of different things that we can offer. Some examples might be a job analysis, ADA assessments, assistance with accommodations, employment disability training. So I can go on and on and on, right? And so what we are doing is we are working in collaboration with Voc Rehab, and we are helping businesses find qualified candidates. So that's kind of how our partnership works.
So one of the things, first of all, and James alluded to this, if any of you listened to him previously, that this is kind of a new way to structure and set up, which we think is going to have great success.
Yeah.
So you and Amy are very new in your role.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I really want to emphasize about this, and you can talk more about it, is for employers is there are so many, those things you listed off, there are so many things that the two of you and others, if needed, can help employers with to really be prepared at all times to open the door to Iowans with disabilities in the positions that they have.
Yep.
And I think sometimes it might be for employers a little bit like worrisome. You know, they're not sure what they have to do. You know, how is that going to work? But we are ready and able to help you get there.
Yeah.
And it can be a game changer.
Yep.
So
Yeah, you're right. A lot of employers, they're fearful. They don't know what steps to take, or, does this cost? No, this is a free service, right? And so there's just a lot of fear that they have, or am I equipped to do it? So yeah.
And I think one of the things, you'll probably be able to say this better, but I feel like one of the things is you can go in and you can take a look at the work that's being done, and you can help figure out job descriptions or review things, and help them understand what work is there that can be for somebody who may have a disability. So that it's really just opening the door.
Yeah, and we'll get to this. I know this is an upcoming question, but really what we focus on is getting with that employer and understanding their needs.
Yes.
Their needs
That's
might be
right.
different than the next person. And so we really take pride in that tailoring of the services that we can offer.
Right.
And hey, yeah, we might do something similar that we did from one business to the next. But again, we really have to look at what their needs are,
Right.
and what we can offer and what that will look like.
Yes, that's important.
Yeah, and one of these services is one that I wanted to kind of focus and touch on was these like ADA compliant surveys that you do.
Yeah.
So you go into businesses or companies, their manufacturing plant, their office, whatever it might be, and you actually walk around and see what needs to be brought up to code. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So understanding and building that relationship with the employer, the business, is our priority, right? It is all about building a partnership and understanding their needs, right? We're not going to go in and throw in, here are all the services. We really want to understand what they have to offer or what they need. And so, yes, these tours are one of the first steps that we like to take with businesses. And really, it is a hands-on approach where we are going into the business and we are touring. We are doing observations of the jobs. We are sometimes doing the jobs, which is really fun.
Yeah. Yes.
And then we're interviewing, right? We're interviewing the employees, the hiring managers, the HR department to really get a better understanding of that position, what skills are required, what qualifications are needed, looking at that work environment as well, because is it loud? Is it cold? What type of work environment that's going to be. Again, that helps us to better be able to match candidates to the right opportunity, right? And something else that we like to focus on too is that retention piece.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So once we have placed somebody, it's really important that that individual will grow within that company. And so that's why it's so crucial for us to do those tours and get a better understanding of those jobs and their needs.
That's a really complete way to provide that service, I think. And again, just underscoring that you're there to help meet the employer's needs. That's and so I just would encourage any employer to consider this, reaching out and scheduling a meeting or an opportunity with you or Amy to just start that process and discussion.
Yep. We're only there to hear them, right?
Yeah.
What do you need? We're not going to go and say, give me. What are your needs?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, some things that businesses might not. What are some things that businesses might not think about when it comes to being like ADA compliant, or maybe specifically restructuring a workstation for somebody with a disability? I mean, obviously, some things that come to mind are like ramps for people who are wheelchair users, or making sure that there aren't any big cracks that might be hard to traverse, or something like that. Those might come to mind, but I'm sure there are other things that are much more specialized.
Yes. So obviously physical accessibility is the very first thing that comes to mind. There are so many other factors, right? And so some things that maybe are overlooked might be like digital accessibility. What do their websites look like? Are documents available? Can they be used with a screen reader? Is there sites? Can you go in and can you navigate them clearly without being confused or whatever? So that digital piece is something that's often overlooked. Another one is communication accessibility. Are individuals having access to ASL interpreters? Is there captioning on videos? Any written documents, for example, do they come in other formats? Can they get them in Braille? Can we do enlarged printing? So there's so many other things that get overlooked because I think we hear ADA and we think physical, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's just like when we say disability, what do you think of?
Yeah.
The physical disabilities.
Exactly.
So really it's about that environment. Is it accessible for all to participate in access?
Yeah. Very good.
How do you kind of break it down for employers? Because I feel like if someone might be listening to this, they'll be like, "Oh my God, there's so much." Like, how are you able to kind of like pare it down and tailor it to them where they feel like this can be undertaken?
Yes, yeah. So I kind of mentioned before, we tailor all of our services, right? And so sometimes it can be a quick fix or a quick strategy that we're able to offer because we see it pretty common or pretty frequently. So we might be able to offer them recommendations or solutions on the spot. But often it really takes a lot of collaborating with that employer on kind of coming up with a plan or a strategy. It might also be including other entities or other parties that are the experts, right? Bring them in and help us kind of identify what those solutions are. And so every business is unique. Every situation can vary. And so we are really, again, looking at that business and kind of deciding what that process would look like. We always leave a meeting by saying, what did we go over today? What are our next steps? And a big thing is follow through, right?
Yeah.
So when are we meeting next time? Even if it's a quick fix, hey, should we meet in like 3 months just to see how things are going? Sometimes it's meeting next month or in 2 weeks. It's really tailored to that business. Once the business has placed one of the job candidates, something really cool is that we can offer 30, 60, and 90-day follow-up to the business, right? We want to make sure that they have that assistance that they need if they need it. We're here, right? Reach out. So that's pretty cool too. We have that follow-up.
I think that's important just because I feel like, it's important to know that for employers that we're not going to come in, do a survey, do an assessment, and then be like, later days, good luck, see ya. And then they have to take care of it all on their own. This is something that we want to be partners with the employers and be a resource for them. And like you said, connect them to other resources as well.
My biggest success is when an employer just calls me out of the blue and says, "Hey, Ashlee, I have a question for you."
That's exactly.
Call
I was
me.
thinking that, and that's when you were talking about, the importance of building the relationship, and then there is a lot of information and a lot of different ways to look at things. But I think that is the key, and I feel like for employers, thinking about that, they build this relationship with you, and then they something comes up. That's exactly what we want. I know who I can call. I can call Ashlee. I can call Amy. I can call. That is exactly what we want. And
that's when I know that I'm doing my job right. Right. I know that I'm doing my job right when they reach out to me.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
when you do some of these tours or these surveys, are you making recommendations kind of like on the spot, or is this something where you come back, you kind of write up a report, and then you go over it with them afterwards?
It can vary,
Sure.
right? Because sometimes we can sit down with them and we have solutions and strategies that we can offer. And other times it's like, hey, let's get back together. I want to work through this a little bit. Maybe I want to go collaborate with Amy or Michelle or some other BECs to kind of say, hey, let me get your input on this. What do you think we should do? And sometimes it's having multiple ideas and strategies because they might not always all work out.
So how's it going? As we stated before, this is kind of a new role. I can't remember how long, Ashlee, have you guys been in these roles?
Yeah, so we've been in here since July.
Okay, yes, yeah. So how's it going so far? What's what's it trending like, or what are you learning?
It is very good. So Amy and I both actually used to work for Voc Rehab.
Okay.
So we both worked there for a number of years. So we really understand in the advocating piece of working with people with disabilities. Amy and I also were on the business team when it was at Voc Rehab. So we have that skill set and that experience.
Yes.
So we really kind of jumped in and started get going.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it can be a little confusing about the process and how everybody is Iowa workforce development and how does that work. And so we're still figuring out all those pieces and making sure that communication is streamlined and the right people are at the table. So we're learning.
Yeah. Always.
But it's got to be nice to be able to now like be part of IWD and have the kind of logistical resources and then, the different divisions here that you can kind of fall back on and rely on in some of these situations. Yeah,
so the business engagement consultants, they often are making those referrals to me. So they're going out and meeting with businesses, or maybe they're inviting me. Hey, Ashlee, I have this tour with this business. Can you join me? And so we're doing it as a team. And so they're making those connections. They're saying, hey, I know that you have some challenges hiring individuals. Have you ever thought about working and hiring people with disabilities? And then they're going to say, I'm going to connect you with Ashlee. So it's a great leeway.
Yes.
And because we have the qualifications, the experience of working with individuals with disabilities, they can kind of say, hey, I'm going to let you work with Ashlee.
Yes, exactly. So just bringing more expertise to the table, and we are very excited about that. So
now, as we kind of talk about National Disability Employment Awareness Month, obviously we're not only talking about how IWD helps folks with disabilities find employment, but we also talk about how businesses can be kind of like more proactive in hiring people with disabilities, make it top of mind rather than something that you go through a couple options and you're like, oh yeah, let's try this, right? So from from your perspective, what can businesses do to try to be more proactive when it comes to hiring people with disabilities?
Yes. So October is the month, right?
Yes.
So where we are celebrating the value and the talent that people with disabilities bring to the workforce. What's important, it is not just all about October, right? We should be doing it all year long, right? Yeah. And having that mindset of inclusion all year. And I think it's really important, and sometimes it's missed, is that it happens at every level in an organization. I've seen where a CEO has this outlook of, hey, this is what I want to do. Here's this goal that I have, but it doesn't trickle down.
Yes.
Or vice versa.
Yes.
And so it's really that mindset that it happens at every level and all year long.
Yes.
So really creating an environment where diversity and accessibility is the focus all year long.
So good.
And bringing that, like you said, bringing that mindset all the way from the CEO to the hiring managers to the people that might be working there that might want to refer somebody to their business and their company.
There's so many things that employers and businesses can be doing, right? From, hey, let's look at our job descriptions.
Yes.
Are they inclusive?
Yeah.
We offer training. So maybe it's offering training to hiring managers and their employees so that they're equipped to hire and support individuals with disabilities. So really making sure that it's a long
Yes.
all year long commitment.
It is. It's just part of the work.
It is.
That's integrated into everything that
Yep.
is done.